Hello, Blazers. Welcome to episode 162 of UAB Green and Told, originally debuted on Monday, November 3rd, 2025. This podcast gives us the opportunity to share the voices of the UAB community. Revisit past episodes at alumni.uab.edu/greenandtold on Spotify or the Apple Podcast app. And don't forget to leave a review to help more Blazers find us. I'm Greg Berry, a UAB alum and Director of Communications in the Office of Alumni Affairs. Emily Magda doesn't just move through life. Today's guest dances with it. Whether it's navigating identity, switching majors like outfits, or finding clarity in the fog, her story is anything but static. As we'll learn, her heritage wasn't something she grew up fluent in, but it's now something she's chasing with purpose. The search for identity can be cloudy, but Emily, she's determined to find the light.
The culture has always been a mystery for me, but I'm so hungry for it because it's part of my identity that it's like this big cloud, this fog that I can't pierce through.
From day one, Emily dove in head first, sometimes too deep. Her calendar was packed, her boundaries blurred, and her major, well, she'll admit it had a revolving door.
Overly committed, one would say, which is something I had to learn as an adult too, is boundaries with my energy and everything. But yeah, I got involved with a lot of things. I also changed my major 6 times.
But through all the pivots, the twists and turns, things began to click. And as she'll share, sometimes the right path doesn't need to be forced. It just opens.
You know, in life, when you're pushing on this door and it's, you feel resistance and you go, okay, well, let me redirect and let me go this way. And then boom, 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 the doors just start opening and it's just with ease. That's what happened with me with working in art.
Growing up in Montgomery with a Pike Road address, Emily Magda's world has always been more layered than it looked on paper. From ice skating to dance, her rhythm was rooted in movement and her curiosity stretched far beyond city limits. As a daughter of a mother who immigrated from Uzbekistan, Emily's home life was rich with cultural undertones, even if not always fully understood. French became her second language, not Russian, adding another twist to her already complex identity. Her story is one of contrast, tradition versus assimilation, introversion versus expression, expectation versus discovery. And while she's navigated the South with a global lens, she often felt like an observer in both worlds.
Very strange having like Russian culture in the deep South. So there were those influences in the home, but I was very introverted, very heavy into reading. There was this accelerated reader program where you had to, every book that you read, you took a little quiz on some application in school, and then you racked up these points. And I would rack up so many points that I would earn these trophies at the end of the school year. So that being said, social life was not as well-rounded as the academic life, I think, from a young age. And I suppose part of this is, my mom immigrating and giving up everything to be here, that she really wanted her children to achieve and just like, I don't know, I wanted to make her proud for all of the things that she sacrificed to be here. And so I really pushed hard in school. I started doing ballet when I was 5 years old. Shortly after that, I enrolled in ice skating classes. And so those things carried me and still to this day continue to carry me throughout my life. I'm so happy to say I've kept in touch with those passions.
When it came to the ice skating as well as the dance, the ballet, what was it about the creativity of those two mediums that kind of drew you that way?
I think from an early age, I realized that I have an inkling for movement as my mode of expression. Even just talking to you, I have to do my hands, or I have to have my leg up here. It is just something that has been so natural always. And I know that my dad was the one who was really pushing for me to go into these artistic spheres, whereas my mom is very logical. She works in finance. My dad is sort of the creative, the artistry. He's that soul that's in me. He's the one who cooked at home, and he did our ballet buns and everything. So that has always been something that's spoken to me.
As a child, what did you want to do with your life? You have a mother from Uzbekistan. You have an international tie. Is that where that international studies degree came into play?
Yes. I don't know how, I'm weighing how personal I want to get in this answer, but I suppose to answer your first question about what I wanted to do when I grew up as a child, I really have had no direction up until probably a few months ago. Actually, it all clicked into place. I have never had a dream of, oh, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a dance teacher. There's nothing that's ever really stuck out strongly to me. I mean, I've had my parents kind of push me in one direction or the other, but even throughout high school and choosing electives, I really just chose the things that I was drawn to learning more about, not really with a sort of career plan or dreaming of a job or anything like that. Just a passion for education, that intellectual curiosity. But as far as the international background influencing my, because I did a dual degree, one in political science and one in international studies. That international studies definitely was influenced because my mom immigrated in the 90s. That was the time when it was sort of cool to assimilate into American culture instead of nowadays. It's depending on what type of family you come from. I feel like they really try to imbue those cultural values, and they want that legacy to remain, and that pride of being an immigrant family. But when my mom immigrated, she was very USA, best country in the world, is what she's always saying. So I wasn't taught really the language. A lot of the cultural practices were withheld from me. So I feel like there is a big hole there. And my grandmother immigrated when I was 5, so she lived in our home. I heard Russian. I understand a bit, but even just, I don't know. We went to Russian Orthodox Church once a year. The culture has always been a mystery for me, but I'm so hungry for it because it's part of my identity that it's like this big cloud, this fog that I can't pierce through. And I started taking French in high school because of the ballet. And my mom really harped on that. She was really pushing for me to go in that direction. And even now, when I try to ask her, I've made efforts to learn Russian on my own, and she actually discourages it for whatever reason. And she wants me to continue with the French. And I think there's just a lot with her background that's probably really hard to work through that she maybe doesn't want to dive back into or reconnect with. And I respect that. But at the same time, it's like, it's it's my identity is, I feel like, lacking something.
When it came time to start looking at college, what went into the thought process, and ultimately, why UAB?
As I've grown up from that introverted child into a very extroverted adult who loves to connect with others, I was drawn to a big city. So I thought, okay, Birmingham, biggest city. And the thing about UAB, that when I was an orientation leader after my first year of enrolling at UAB, this is something I would always tell the incoming students, is I loved the fact that it was just right in the middle of downtown. You're in the hospital system, you're with all the businesses, you're not isolated on a campus in a sort of mock reality. Like you're in adult life, you do your internships, you do your jobs. That's something that's just always been attractive to me. I had toured Alabama and other schools, and I just didn't like that it was off to the side and sort of protected. I just wanted to jump right in and just be a part of the hustle and bustle and not have to struggle with a sort of, veil being lifted at the end of my studies and having to adjust. I just wanted to be in it. And as well, growing up in Montgomery, I'm very used to a diverse population around me. I have realized that is not the case for a lot of people. And so looking at, demographic statistics of UAB and everything, and the diversity of the programs offered, and, backgrounds of all the students, I just knew, I was like, oh, this is familiar. This is something I want to continue to invest in and surround myself with. So I feel like it was a no-brainer.
You strike me as somebody, just in meeting you now, that as soon as you set foot on campus, you were involved in just about everything.
Overly committed, one would say, which is something I had to learn as an adult too, is boundaries with my energy and everything. But yeah, I got involved with a lot of things. I also changed my major 6 times.
So what did you start with as a major? You ended up with the international studies and poli-sci, but what did you start with?
Necessary context, I've had 2 knee surgeries on my right knee. At the time I entered UAB, I'd torn my ACL and meniscus and had gone through, the process. And I had such a great experience in the hospital and in my PT, and everything about that fascinated me, and helping people and supporting people and being in that sort of high stress environment. So I was actually BMD and pre-PA when I entered, and that lasted 5 days before I decided, oh, this is not for me. I've romanticized this idea of being in the medical field, and this is not for me. And then I changed to English, and then I added international studies, or I went back. I did some back and forth. So it wasn't six different majors, but it was like adding international studies, dropping the English, adding political science, dropping this, but English was there.
That's a
Yes.
big shift going from medicine, BMDPA, to English and even international studies. You caught that kind of early on because 5 days into it, you're like, none of this medical stuff. You didn't have to adjust a whole lot. You didn't have to stay 5 extra years to complete your studies, anything like that.
No, and you know what was the turning point? I was in the university honors program. Oh my God, I could talk about that for hours. How that has shaped me into the person I am today. But we were on our retreat, and I was connecting with all these folks. And one of the upperclassmen, he was an English major, and he was just pouring his heart out about how passionate he is about writing, and I just saw myself in him. And I sat down with him and I said, I think I'm in the wrong program. And so he really helped to support me through that transition and that change. So wasted no time.
What was being a part of the Honors College like? Because that is a school on campus, relatively new, but it is growing leaps and bounds, which tells you kind of the quality of student UAB is getting.
My experience would not have been half as fulfilling without being in that program. I mean, that was just really where I was meant to be again, surrounded by all of these like-minded individuals who are not only academically curious, but hungry for that knowledge, willing to put in these extra, whatever it was, 35 credit hours and really push themselves. We had all these 9-hour exams. We did these first Thursday lecture series. We did a lot of extra that, wouldn't get credit for or whatever, for the sake of just the love of knowledge. I would much rather be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Whatever topic we were learning about, we had neighborhoods and communities was one of my fall semesters. So, we had an art professor come and lecture. We had a neuroscience professor. We had a law professor. And so all about that one topic. And it makes sense for me that that is how real life works, that nothing exists in a vacuum. And I want to be able to understand things from different angles.
When it comes to the classroom setting, you look at the traditional experience, 30, 40, 50, 200 students in a classroom. What was it like in UHB?
All of us, early morning, lecture, 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 pop quiz, pop quiz, pop quiz, so many essays, so much writing. Oh my gosh, we did these workshops as well. And we had to take 5 of them. And one of the ones I took was a nature poetry. We got to go to the Cahaba. We had to design our final project. I ended up doing like this art component. So a lot of freedom, I would say, within our academic journey.
You mentioned that life became clear about 3 months ago, and you kind of figured out, okay, I kind of know what I want to do. But before we even get there, at what point did things kind of get clear in school and you went, okay, I'm finally settling in international studies and political science? Because you were jumping all around for a while, as you admitted, and just kind of bounced back and forth.
So I was English international studies for a while, and then I have always had this curiosity about the world, like we've already discussed. But on a deeper level, I wanted to know how things operated on a systemic, global level. I knew that there was so much out there that I was just ignorant to. And politics is something my dad and I have grown up in the home discussing every morning over coffee from a young, young, young age. And in high school, I wasn't really afforded the chance to do that. So that was something that, let me study political science. And so when that paired with the international studies, and I thought, oh my God, this is my holy grail. This is exactly where I need to be. When I just started getting into those really niche classes, like in African politics or something like that, or international political economy classes, it was very empowering, especially as a woman. I feel like in high school, there was a lot of intimidation around, these speech and debate spaces, these model United Nations spaces being so male dominated. And it was really intimidating to me. And so as I've grown into the woman I am, being able to choose that educational path for myself has been, I really just don't know another word outside of enriching and empowering, that I can do this and I do understand these things. And then I can compete and study on a level that is competitive and that is going to contribute to this wider world of academia.
Your French finally paid off. The pushing by your mom paid off. You wound up in France as a Fulbright English teaching assistant. What was that experience like? Because that is, when you talk about academics, that's one of the most prestigious things, programs you can be a part of.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, it only made sense that I would apply for it because the pandemic hit in the middle of my university studies. So I was a sophomore. I had already planned the study abroad. Actually, I already put a deposit in. I was going to study on the Amalfi Coast and whatever. It would have been my first time out of the country. Obviously, things took a turn. And so I thought, by the time junior year rolled around, it was like, okay, I need to make this happen and it has to be funded. It has to. I mean, that's the whole reason why I had never been out of the country before, just our family not, being afforded the opportunity to do that, and that's fine. But I decided to go big because you know what? I find out a lot of times in my life, I I don't go after all of these things. I try to narrow it down and get as specific as possible to where I know that this thing is for me. And knock on wood, it usually ends up working out well. Only made sense, France, right, because of the French language skills. I talked with Dr. Michelle Cook in the International Fellowships Office, who is now a friend of mine. And we looked, would my application be stronger as an ETA or a research scholar? And all of my teaching experience, I worked as a student consultant on university teaching in the Center of Teaching and Learning at UAB. Things like that, working with nonprofits in town, teaching poetry. It kind of made sense that I would go that direction. Although I think I knew that I didn't want to be a teacher at the end of the day. It was still something that I knew would be an incredible, fulfilling experience. But being over there, it was not easy. It was not glamorous. It was not Emily in Paris, as everyone was calling me. We don't get to choose where we're placed. So I was placed in a really small town outside of Bordeaux. There was only 11 of us grantees that year, and I was the only one that was not in a major city. So it was challenging. It was isolating. I mean, I had to find an apartment in French, get a SIM card in French, get a phone plan, do my healthcare. I ended up going to the emergency room twice, communicating all of that in French, getting a debit card in French. I mean, it really pushed my language skills, and I'm so fortunate for it. And I'm so fortunate, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
What kind of things did you do when you were actually working as the English teaching assistant?
Yeah, we were only allowed to work 12 hours a week. They really wanted emphasis on you also immersing yourself within the culture of the country that you're in. So I was very fortunate enough to have been offered free housing. So I was right across the street from my high school. I had taught or assisted in teaching students from ninth to 12th grade range, in addition to this program called BTS, which was sort of like our associate's degree. So a lot of the students were close in age to me. But I worked with 5 or 6 different teachers. I would be in a classroom for an hour. Uh, every teacher was different to work with. Everyone had their own personality and expectations of me. Some of them, I would be leading lessons on Gothic literature and Edgar Allan Poe in my more rigorous English classes. And the others, sometimes I was just trying to get students to form basic sentences and just chatting with them, connecting with them. So that dynamic experience of kind of not really knowing what to expect when I walked in was really fun for me. It was also a little frustrating, to be honest, but I learned so much about working with others and lesson planning and organization. And also, I got to travel a lot because I only worked 12 hours a week. And I made an effort to really know France. I did not want to, let me go off to Ibiza, let me go off to Berlin. Like, I really wanted to know France first before I did that. So I traveled to 17 different French cities throughout my time, taking weekend trips, whatever, all over. And solo trips by myself, stayed in hostels, quiet moments, going through the city, learning as much as I could, talking to as many people as I could. Um, yeah, and that. I think most people never get to do that in their lives. So again, just leading with gratitude for that experience.
Your life is all about getting clarity, and you alluded to this before that just a few months ago, life finally became a little bit more clear. Why? What happened?
I'm asking myself that same question too. Well, I'm really glad I took time off after undergrad to work, figure out what I wanted. Did the Fulbright, came back. I was trying to make the political thing work. I was, moved back home to Montgomery. Had my eyes set on the Equal Justice Initiative, really wanting internships, really wanting to work for the ACLU, things like that, Southern Poverty Law Center. And you know what? In life when you're pushing on this door and it's you feel resistance and you go, okay, well, let me redirect and let me go this way, and then boom boom boom, the doors just start opening and it's just with ease. That's what happened with me with working in art. I decided to apply for a job with the Birmingham Museum of Art, which I'd been to so many different times. I've always had a passion for art, especially moving to Europe. And the first thing I did when I moved to a new city was go to the museum, find the galleries. Always my number one thing on the itinerary. So I think that unlocked something in me, that planted a seed that definitely grew. Ended up getting the job at the BMA. After that, doors just started opening. I got a job at a contemporary art gallery downtown with Scott Miller projects. I started working with art clients on the side. All of these different things just clicked. And oh my gosh, I knew that that's where I needed to be. And I've never had that feeling in my entire life. But yeah, I mean, I met this girl I was working the Atlanta Art Fair. We had a booth. It was the inaugural year. And I don't know if you can see, but I have this red hair. And I saw this girl in the art fair. She had red hair. She had the same black dress on. She had the same silver shoes. And so we ended up meeting each other. She attended the Sotheby's Institute of Art in London. She was talking about her program. She ended up working for Gagosian in New York. And I just saw myself in her. I was like, this is me in 5 years, because she's older than me. And then Sotheby's just started popping up on whether it was Instagram or in conversation. And I decided to look into it. And I was like, oh my God, this MA in art business? There is no other program that exists like that. And again, going back to UHP, it's an interdisciplinary program. It's about art, but it has classes on economics, the art market, law and ethics, what that looks like in an art context. In addition to these electives like fine luxury jewels and things like that, it makes sense that I would be doing this program.
Do you think that the little girl growing up in Montgomery would ever think, I'm not even going to talk about the journey that you got to it, but you chose this path finally? Do you think she would have thought you'd ever be there?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. In a way, yes. In a way, again, just connecting from such a young age with the ballet, the ice skating. I also did piano lessons. You know, that artistic influence from my dad has always found its way throughout my life. It's been the thread. It's been that constant thread, no matter what I'm going through. Those things have always been there. I've always relied on writing. I've always been drawn to those activities like a magnet, as a refuge, as a balm for anything that's happening, anything that's going on. So for that to be also woven into my career in a way that's practical also. So that's where my mom comes in, balancing that passion with, okay, I still admit to myself that I want a lucrative career. I want to honor the sacrifices she made. I want to be able to give back some of what she gave to me growing up. I'm kind of wanting that for myself too. So not just going into just art history, or I'm going to be an artist or something, which is such a beautiful life. But I knew that for me, I needed some of that stability, some of that structure. So yeah, I think I can see both of my parents reflected in my career choice, and it wasn't deliberate. It just happened that way.
That's Emily Magda, a 2022 graduate of the College of Arts and Sciences and Honors College, where she double majored in international studies and political science. Today, she's in London, pursuing her master's in art business at Sotheby's Institute of Art. Her journey reflects a global perspective that resonates with the UAB's mission and spirit, embodying what it truly means to be a blazer.
Being a blazer is being resilient and curious and kind and compassionate and driven and ambitious. I saw that not only in the history of the university and how it developed, also in the classes, in the course loads offered, and especially, most importantly, in my peers and my colleagues and my professors around me. That spirit, blazers have this special energy about them. And I didn't realize it until I got out of college and I started traveling and I started talking to other people, and I realized what a unique, wonderful experience that I was able to have at UAB, and I miss it every single day. I think that it grew in me so many beautiful values and seeds that had been planted. UAB watered me. Yeah, UAB watered me, and I see the fruits of that being shown now and reaching the light and blossoming. I'm just grateful. I just love UAB.
That's another episode of UAB Green and Told in the books. Catch up on past episodes at alumni.uab.edu/greenandtold on Spotify or the Apple Podcast app. If you have a guest idea, send it our way at greenandtold@uab.edu. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected with all things UAB alumni. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Blazers.